Thank you, everyone, for subscribing to Infinitely Productions. If you have not done so, please click the bell and subscribe, and we hope you enjoy our content.
Because of Nicky the Crow's accusations, Scarfo is indicted for the Rouse extortion, and Bobby is named as an unindicted co-conspirator. When Scarfo comes up for trial, the judge rules that Simone may defend him, but because of his possible involvement, Simone may not cross-examine the other mobsters. Nicky the Crow testifies without fear of Bobby Simone.
Scarfo was ultimately convicted of conspiracy to extort Willard Rouse, and he was sentenced to 14 years.
But one conviction is not enough. State and federal prosecutors have been building cases against Scarfo for 5 years, and those cases will now come to trial. Up first, Scarfo and 17 mafia associates are charged with running a methamphetamine ring on the streets of Philly.
If a guy was a drug dealer, he was making $50,000 a month or something, we tell him we want 15%, 10%, and he's got our protection. They have to say yes. Of course, if they say no, we're going to kill him.
As usual, Simone is at Scarfo's table, and this time he doesn't have to hold back.
Now, Bobby Simone was cross-examining me, and at one point he tells me, "You broke every commandment there is, didn't you? Thou shalt not steal, you stole. Thou shalt not kill, you killed. And you want these people to believe you." I said, "Yeah."
The credibility of these guys was terrible, and it wasn't too difficult to show that to the jury.
The drug case was improperly charged. They tried to make Scarfo to be a drug kingpin, and what he really was he was financing methamphetamine deals. And so Bobby and the other defense attorneys, they were able to say to the jury, look, these guys may be giving money to these drug dealers, but they're not drug kingpins, and that's what they're charged with. You've got to quit, and that's what they did.
It's a stunning victory. Even the lawyers celebrate publicly.
My name is Bob Simone, and I represent the boss.
And the boss still needs Bobby. There are more trials waiting for Scarfo, starting with a first-degree murder charge for ordering the 1984 killing of his own protege, Salvatore Testa.
When we got the hit on Salvi, the easiest place we thought to do it was in the store that we hung, the clubhouse.
On the stand, Nicky the Crow describes how he arranged Salvi's murder.
Wayne Grandy catches Salvi in the head with the first shot. Then when he went down, he put another one in his head. And the body laid there for 7, 8 hours, and that night we took his body out and dumped it in Jersey.
But Simone shows that Caramondi can't keep his facts straight.
Caramondi said that after a certain order was given concerning the murder, that he went to this telephone booth to call someone to alert him that they were going to kill Salvi Testa. Well, we had an investigator who went to the scene.
Lo and behold, the telephone booth was installed 6 months before the trial, not way back 4 years ago in 1984.
It's just not there. He's telling you a lie. If he's telling you a lie about that, what else is he lying about?
I think that detail really perked the jury, and I think that detail was what won the case.
Scarfo may be in jail, but Simone has succeeded in knocking down 2 of the government's toughest cases.
But the state made the mistake of relying almost solely on the testimony of Caramondi and Del Giorno.
We could no longer underestimate the skills of our adversaries or the mob lawyers, because it was clear that we wound up in previous cases with egg all over our face, and we were committed not to have that happen again.
That's when the government wheels out its RICO case against Scarfo and his top lieutenants.
RICO is an acronym for Racketeering Influenced Corrupt Organization. It's really the RICO Act.
Under RICO, federal prosecutors can string a series of smaller crimes, called predicate acts, into a larger criminal enterprise. The feds charge that Scarfo and his pals ran a racketeering enterprise called the Mafia.
And the pattern of racketeering activity was the 37 predicate crimes, the 9 murders, the 4 attempted murders, the drug deals, the gambling operations, the extortions.
A unique problem the defense had in the Scarfo racketeering case was the government theorization that Bobby Simone had himself been involved as a principal in one of the criminal events, the Rouse extortion. Time and again, Caramandy went out of his way to respond to a Bobby Simone question in a way which suggested to the jury that he was a colleague of theirs. Bobby, you know what we did. You were there. Bobby, don't you remember what we said we would do? Time and time again.
I don't know how much of an effect it'll have on the jury. We'll find out soon enough.
We were shocked to hear convictions and provens on every racketeering act, every count, save a single racketeering act. We won 1 out of a possible 150 or 200 jury decisions. Crushing defeat for the defense.
Scarfo will be a very, very old man before he gets out. He received 55 years plus.
But the stiff sentence isn't the only outcome of RICO. Scarfo's cronies have been convicted right along with him, including Philip Leonetti, Scarfo's underboss and nephew, a man privy to Scarfo's deepest mafia secrets.
Phil Leonetti, sentenced to 45 years. At that point, he's in his late 30s, I guess, looking at a lifetime in prison. Realizes he's got one way out, and that's to call the government, and he makes the phone call.
When Phil Leonetti came in and provided additional evidence, and evidence from truly from the heart of what was going on with respect to the mob, that evidence all pointed to Bobby Simone as being part of criminal activities, particularly the Rouse extortion.
The avalanche of RICO is picking up speed, and it's thundering right at Bobby Simone. By 1989, Bobby Simone has defended Philadelphia mob boss Nicky Scarfo and his alleged gangster cronies for a decade, with an astonishing record of success. But now the tide has turned. Scarfo's in prison, doing 55 years on a federal racketeering charge, and Scarfo's own nephew, Philip Leonetti, is telling everything he knows to the feds. And one thing he knows an awful lot about is Bobby Simone.
I vividly remember occasion during one of the trials where Simone rose from his chair and stood behind Phil Leonetti, who we knew to be a murderer, and told the jury that he is Bobby Simone's closest friend in the entire world.
While Philip Leonetti, his best friend, turned against him in the witness protection program and testified against him.
In October 1991, the federal government indicts Bobby Simone himself on a RICO charge, featuring 9 counts of extortion and racketeering. Prosecutors have lined up a who's who of one-time mobsters to testify.
There are 8 witnesses in the witness protection program. Between the 8, they've already gotten in excess of $1 million. They've already gotten their sentences cut from what originally could have been maybe life sentences to the point where they're out in the street already.
As he has done before, Simone chooses to defend himself, and Ed Jacobs signs on as co-counsel. The trial begins on November 2nd, 1992.
The racketeering indictment against Bobby was extensive. It included not just the Rouse extortion, but it included multiple allegations of acting as a representative of Nick Scarfo in casino business and just about everything you could think of. It was clearly a very, very serious case.
And it all revolved around the deal to get $1 million out of Willard Rouse and a meeting that Caramandy alleges he had with Bobby in which the deal was discussed and in which Bobby said,
"Don't forget, I want a piece of this deal."
And then it became a question of credibility. Do you believe Caramandy? Do you believe the government's case?
When I testified against Bobby, I told the truth.
But you were almost made.
On the stand, Caramandy reports one of the most startling allegations ever against Bobby Simone, that the defense attorney was himself as good as a made guy in the Philly mob.
I mean, Nicky loved this guy. He loved him so much that he wanted to make him.
So he was full of baloney. Nobody ever believed him on that.
There was no question that among the 7 federally protected witnesses slated to testify against Bobby, Philip Leonetti would be the most lethal.
Why did you want me as your lawyer? Because you're a good lawyer. You didn't want me as your lawyer because I was a mob guy? No, not a mob guy. Let's make it clear if we can. I was not a member of the Cosa Nostra, was I?
No.
And didn't I tell you I wanted to be your lawyer and your friend and not be criminally involved with you?
Clearly, he was a reluctant witness. It also made his testimony very compelling. Because I think the jury saw Leonetti did not want to be testifying against Bobby.
Which hurt me more than helped me, because the jury must have thought, well, if this guy doesn't want to hurt him, he must be telling the truth.
And not only can the feds put Leonetti on the stand, they have a 1986 surveillance tape from a body wire worn by a mob associate.
That body wire intercepted that conversation between Bob and Nick Caramondi, where they were discussing the split proceeds on the Rouse extortion.
When he says, I want 10% or I'm in for 10%, is he talking about his legal fee? Is he talking about a piece of the cut from the extortion? I mean, those are the kind of things that the government was able to spin.
The testimony lasts 4 weeks. The jury deliberates for 9 days.
We won 3 counts on a motion for judgment of acquittal, granted by the judge. We won 3 more counts with the jury, but we lost the last 3. And in a criminal case, you got to win 9 out of 9 or you're nowhere.
One of the jurors was asked, what was the basis of your conviction? And this woman said, well, the government proved he was a mob lawyer, that he represented all those mobsters, which shows how dangerous it is to be tagged with that term.
I think Bobby got in trouble because he was a good friend to a lot of his good clients. And he associated with them so frequently that I think law enforcement failed to distinguish between lawyer and target.
Bobby Simone was not targeted by the government. The reason that Bobby Simone ended up being indicted and successfully convicted was because the evidence led to Bobby. And quite frankly, it was a tragedy.
There's a lot been said about me crossing the line. I said what I had to say in court, that I'd rather be on the side of the line that I'm on now than on the side of the line of Leonetti and Dick Caramondi.
And there's a clear line between representing a defendant and becoming part of the criminal activities of that defendant. What happened to Bobby, and was proved beyond a reasonable doubt, is that he crossed that line.
Bobby Simone is sentenced to 4 years in federal prison. As a convicted felon, he is disbarred from practicing law. He serves most of his time at a prison camp on Nellis Air Force Base outside Las Vegas.
I tried to turn a negative into a positive. I read as much as I could. I wrote, and I helped other inmates who I thought were getting a bad deal, to the point where I was like a highly rated jailhouse lawyer.
The federal government is gunning for the Bobby Simones of the criminal justice system. In Bobby's particular case, he was enormously successful for a lot of years, doing a good job for people who were despised by the federal prosecutors and the FBI, and they knew they'd be better off with Bobby out of the way.
We've got a job to do as defense lawyers, as mouthpieces, if you will, as spokesmen for the defendants, to represent them. And if we don't do it, then the system will break down.
How does a guy who has all of those things going for him get caught up in this underworld, gets caught up to the point where he ends up being convicted and going to jail because of it? How does that happen? How does a seemingly intelligent individual who's been around the law all his life, who knows where the lines are, how does he cross over that line?
I don't do this because of what I want people to think about me, or what I want the press to think about me, or I want the government to think about me. They can think what they want. I do it because I was trying to do my job as best I could.
Since his release from prison, Bobby's license to practice law has been reinstated. But where does a lawyer like Bobby go from here? Who will hire one of our most talented defenders? One thing is for certain. When the government began turning Philly mobsters into witnesses, Bobby Simone ended up square in their sights. I'm Bruce Cutler, telling you that when you carry the torch of justice, it might just be you that gets burned.
Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel and check out more of our content. Feel free to give your feedback and suggestions on what we should do next in the comments. This is Infinite Lee Productions. We love ya.